Hello, welcome to Juniper Level Botanic Garden, the home of Plant Delight's Nursery. I'm standing in a small part of our crevice garden. It's my favorite time of the year in crevice gardens because a couple of plants that we allowed to seed in sort of make the whole display look much more like a garden and not just a collection of plants. And it is an incredible collection of plants, because our crevice garden allows us to grow some very drought-tolerant plants that need super sharp drainage. The crevice garden was built out of repurposed concrete slabs broken up into smaller pieces and set on edge. It's reproducing what happens in nature, where layered sedimentary rock gets turned up by an earthquake or something like that, and then plants seed into those cracks between the stones. And then our soil in between the slabs is mostly the stay-lite PermaTill gravel. And so it's an extremely lean mixture. It's a part of the garden that we almost never water at all, because these plants are incredibly drought tolerant. And you see things like cactus and agaves and yuccas, but there's also a bunch of blooming things this time of year. One group of plants that we succeed in this location that we most likely would not succeed with in our general garden are the aryl hybrid irises. They are hybrids between the common German iris, the bearded iris, and the aryl species iris, which are native to the Middle East in very dry desert areas. Some areas so dry that if there's not enough rain, they don't even bother growing for that year, and they'll just stay dormant underground for that growing season. Those desert species, the aryl iris, crossed with the bearded iris, are quite a bit easier to grow, but still probably would only succeed in a really sharp drainage like we have in the crevice garden. This is a gorgeous cultivar called Shaman's Magic, and it shows that big blotch of dark on the falls of the iris. The falls are the tepals that are going downward. And a lot of the species aryl irises have that big blotch, and in the iris world, they refer to as the bumblebee. But otherwise, they're very much like their bearded iris parents. Now, one of the plants that really fills in a lot of cracks during this time of the year is this little pink cress. It's a cress like watercress and bittercress, which are all members of the Brassicaceae, the modern name for the mustard family, the family of collards and broccoli and all those very important and well-known vegetables. And the old name for the family was Cruciferae, and you've heard me say this a million times. All members of that family have 4 petals, and each pair is at right angles, so it resembles a crucifix, which gave its name to the Cruciferae, meaning to bear a cross. This is an interesting Opuntia relative. This is one of the Cylindropuntia. And its purpose of its spines are really more to shade the body of the plant, to give it a little protection from the extremely hot sun in its desert environment. This little yellow daisy is glorious right now, and you might be thinking you're seeing it for the one good week when it's in bloom, but it will bloom all through the summer, and even last year there were still a few flowers on it in November. It's Hymenopsis scoposus. It's a strain named Travis, and it is a short-lived perennial, but it produces enough seedlings that there's always new plants coming on. And the little white daisy is the Mount Atlas daisy, which is Anacyclus, I think, depressus. And depressus doesn't, don't feel that it's an unhappy plant. It just means, low growing. And it'll bloom for an extended period of time. It too is fairly short-lived, but will replace itself with new seedlings. There are some really beautiful cactus starting to bloom. This is one we have in a number of places. It's in one of the Echinocereus. Now, you see echinos in a lot of cactus names, the scientific names of them. And echinos is, I'm forgetting whether Greek or Latin for the hedgehog. So echinos is referring to something that's spiny. And then cereus, Cereus, is also very frequently part of a cactus scientific name. And it is a wax candle. And, so many cactus are cylindrical like a candle is, or most, a taper is. But Echinocereus coccineus is native to the southwest U.S. The plants don't get a whole lot taller than this, but they will slowly make an ever wider cluster of stems. And all the true cactus are stem succulents, except for the Pereskias, very primitive cactus that have big noticeable leaves. All the other cactus, if they have leaves, it's only for a very brief time when they're putting out new stems in the spring. And so the stem itself is usually greenish or blue-gray green, and that's the part of the plant that photosynthesizes. And being a stem, as the stems get older, the oldest part of the stem often gets sort of brown or gray and corky, big. And it's only the newest part that continue to photosynthesize. Oh, what else? Oh, the little linum, the perennial blue flax. Normally the flowers are open in the morning, but it's a charming thing with sky blue flowers. This is Linum lewisii. It's very similar to Linum perenne, which is something my mother had in her garden when I was a child. But Linum lewisii is a much longer-lived plant with us. And here you can see a lot more of the little pink cress, and I don't think I mentioned its name. It's in the genus Aethionema. And lovely little allium, not yet in bloom, but has this really broad glaucous foliage. This is Allium carataviense. It's one of the alliums that grow from a bulb that is planted in the fall, and that's one of the bulbous alliums that are fairly long-lived for us. Another gorgeous cactus, that's one of the Echinocereus. It's a hybrid, but their flowers are surprisingly large for relatively small cactus. A great big showy penstemon triflorus. It'll bloom for probably close to 2 months. The stem will continue to elongate. It'll end up being, almost 4 feet tall in bloom. It's one, the seed was originally collected in Uvalde County in Texas. Good long-lived plant that's easy from seed. And many of the dianthus, especially the ones with glaucous blue-gray foliage, are very drought tolerant. They love sun, and many of them are very powerfully fragrant. That delightful clove scent that you associate with their florist cousins, the big carnations. Oh, and I walk past this lovely little white, I think that's a, what is that, a sagina, a sandwort? No, it's aurenaria. Lovely little white thing. And oh, yeah. Oh, one of our hybrid clematis, very different than the large flowered ones that get planted on mailboxes. This is a hybrid that we've named purple gumdrops. That's as big as it gets. It's maybe 18 inches tall, with these delightful, silly little flowers that look like they're reaching out to give you a kiss. Not all clematis are vines. And, you know, still Phlox subulata, some of them are still blooming fairly nicely. This is a real special plant. It hasn't gotten its annual winter cleanup, but this is a goat's rue. It's a legume, herbaceous perennial. It has these flowers that are sort of look the color of like an egg custard with raspberry sauce on. They're bicolor flowers. They're really pretty. Very drought tolerant. Occurs locally, often on sunny roadsides. But we'll meet it again later on. You know, the crevice garden right now is, as I said, my favorite time in the year, with a bunch of small things sort of acting as matrix to a supporting role for the big showstoppers. Well, I thank you for your time today, and I hope to see you again in the garden.